Welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and this episode we're taking a look at a piece of everybody's favorite merc with a mouth, a resin bust from Diamond Select of Deadpool. We've actually looked at a bunch of different Deadpool things from Diamond Select in the past, including a Lady Deadpool statue, and most recently, Deadpool from the X-Men animated series mini bust line, which we really liked a lot. Deadpool has a lot of statues from DST out there, but how does this resin bust compare to all those? And is it worthy of being added to your statue shelf? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now let's talk about this packaging first real quickly here. And unlike the gallery diorama pieces, most of the resin pieces, if not all of the resin pieces that come from Diamond Select, are not packaged in the open plastic window boxes that you see with those gallery pieces. Nope. Instead, all of the resin pieces come packaged in just a pretty plain box. No windows, no nothing. And I'm using double negatives because, well, it's a Deadpool statue, so I think I can kind of get away with bad grammar today. What you do get, though, on basically all four sides of the packaging is Deadpool in the exact same pose, but it is kind of fun because the piece does rotate as you rotate the box, as you're going to be seeing in this little clip here. So while you look at him from the front, on the front of the box, on each side, he's going to be posed slightly differently as if someone's turning it for you. With the exception, of course, being the back of the box, which does just show him in the front again, but this time with a very nice bio. Great job with the bio here, Diamond Select. Bios are always one of my things I talk about here, and I like a good bio. This one here does the job very nicely. It also lets us know that this is a limited edition piece to only 3,000 statues, and there will be a numbered COA once we open up the packaging. And lastly, it informs us that this piece was designed by Nelson X Asensio and sculpted by Juan Pitlook. Apologies in advance if I've just said anybody's names wrong. As far as resin pieces go, they tend to be very pricey because they're quite solid and often quite large, but this one, as you guys can see here, it's really not that much bigger than my head, so that means it's also pretty affordable, and it actually is quite affordable. But the question is, how's it all going to look once it's out of the box? Well, let's go ahead and give you an answer to that right now. So let's take this Deadpool resin bust out of this packaging here and get a closer look at it from all angles. All right, and first things first, I want to show you guys every single Deadpool comes with a certificate of authenticity, and they are individually numbered. So that's what mine looks like, and that's what your card will also look like. Nothing on the back, okay. That's what your card will also look like when you get the statue. Now let's do this little unboxing here, and I wanted to show you guys, this Deadpool does come packaged with some hands basically apart from his body. That's how they keep this pretty compact, because otherwise it will get a little unruly. And that's also how it's going to keep those swords safe. So I'm going to go ahead now and assemble this thing, and then we'll come back and take a look at Deadpool all put together, which is something that I don't think Deadpool can actually say for himself ever. All right, and here is our Deadpool, although you'll notice he is missing a few things. That's because I wanted to show you guys how these hands attach. So there's magnets. You can see one of them right here. There's magnets on the top of his forearms. So all we have to do, I would assume, is just line it up in the correct position, and the magnets do the rest of the work for you. So there he is. That's it. It does give you some mild articulation too, which is always handy to have. But there you go. That is how our Deadpool is going to look once he is all together. So yeah, let's talk about this piece here. So my first question normally is about likenesses. And does this look like Deadpool? Well, I mean, that question is kind of, does it look like a guy wearing a red mask with black little dots on it? So yeah, it does. It looks like Deadpool. Is this a Deadpool that you're going to like? Yes. Of course, Deadpool is a character who is always up for interpretation. In this case, the interpretation comes to us from Nelson X Asensio and Juan Pitlook, as we mentioned earlier. So this is basically their version of Deadpool. This is their idealized version of the character. And do we like it, I guess, is more of the question. Because, again, Deadpool, it's pretty much a generic kind of look. He's just, like you said, red mask with the two circle ovals that are on his eyes. So, yeah, this is an interesting version of Deadpool. And it kind of reminds me, I feel like, a little bit more of like the X-Force version of Deadpool. I'm talking like Rob Liefeld version of Deadpool. I like this kind of quilted armor that he has going on here. It's kind of like quilted patch stuff going on his shoulders and down his lats and his sides. It really reminds you of, obviously it's a very battle-ready version of Deadpool, but the pose, the shape of the outfit, the look of the character, it does kind of remind me of like OG Deadpool, and I like that about this piece. And it's a real kind of combat-ready version of Deadpool, which is something else I appreciate. I mean, there's no guns in this piece, and it's usually rare to see Deadpool without a gun, and he has none on his utility belt that you're seeing here. But he's got his two katanas, and the katanas are really cool. I feel like I don't see enough of those in statues, so that part is nice. I like that he has both of his swords, and they're already out, get ready to do some chopping. I don't think, unfortunately you can't really slide them back into the scabbards, but again, that would kind of make no sense, because where would his hands go? What would his hands be doing? He'd just be doing like a down block pose? That's kind of weird, even for Deadpool. So let's do a quick measurement here and see how big this Deadpool is. And it looks like with the highest peak, he is a little bit over 6 inches tall, so not a very large piece. It is a mini bust after all, but it's a nice sturdy resin piece. I mean, this is solid. It's not going to fall down anytime soon. It's very well balanced. A good sturdy looking piece. Very simple looking base, but still a pretty nice base. I like how the base looks. But let's talk about the pose a little more too, because the pose to me is interesting. It's basically him in action. He's got his swords out. He's doing some battling here. But one of the things that kind of throws me off a little bit is the position of the head. Now, right now, you guys are seeing it from head on, and I think from head on, it looks really great. Funny to keep saying head and head on, whatever. But when you start looking at it from different angles, like if you start kind of looking at it from a little bit of a higher position, and he's turned a little bit, I don't quite think it works as well. Especially actually if you haven't turned, I don't think it really looks that good at all. Something about the way his head is resting in his chest area, it looks like it's recessed into there a little bit. And that kind of means like if you're going to have this thing on display, I feel like it really has to be on eye level. Anything else, and it's going to start looking a little funky. It's unfortunate because it is a really cool pose, actually. It's an interesting pose, too. We have these really cool angles here, a lot of right angles, a lot of sharp angles with this Deadpool, even his body language. You know, it's kind of this like just sharp going down action here we have. So, and that's kind of mirrored also by the way the scabbards are. So there's a lot of interesting right angles and diagonal lines in this. And that kind of fits the sword action and the kind of energy of how a sword fight would be. But I guess what just throws me off really is that kind of recess in his chest over here. It kind of just, that part kind of throws me off a little bit. That's unfortunate because it is pretty cool otherwise. Now let's talk about some more of the texture and the paint application. And as far as texture goes, you have some nice little texture in his mask here. You have it also on the arms and on the gloves. You have this quilted look I already talked about earlier. But as far as like the rest of him, I don't really know. I mean, actually, no, okay, there's still, it's not as obvious, but there still is a little bit of textured feel on there. So that's cool. And the reason I'm big on the texture too is because that's kind of what helps capture light and darkness when you're putting this on a shelf somewhere. And you want it to kind of stand out and be striking. And I think with a piece like resin 2, where it's going to be more expensive, you really want that extra mile of having more texture on a piece, and that does this. And that texture pays off because that's how things are kind of popping out a little bit more, but that also goes into the paint application. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I think the paint application is pretty solid overall on this piece too. I mean, you've got a lot of nice toning effect on the arms, especially, of course, down the center of his body. The head, you can see there's a little bit of like gloppy sloppiness that's happening right there on his head. But otherwise, it's looking pretty solid. I mean, oh yeah, that's actually a real noticeable little splotch over there. The base, of course, is fairly clean, but there are a bunch of little white specks on it. That's probably, yeah, that's just from the styrofoam, so I'm not going to really criticize that too much. You can just wipe that off later with like a napkin. But texture is looking good. Paint application looks pretty solid. I do kind of wish there was a little bit more something going on with the quilted parts of the armor. There is like some like darkness put into them, a little bit of toning, I guess. But I almost wish, I guess, that color was a little bit darker, maybe. I think that's what I want from this piece, a little bit darker of toning with the quilted sections here. But overall, pretty solid Deadpool piece. I'm liking this one a lot. And I think the price for a resin bust is also fairly affordable. I'm pretty sure this is somewhere between the $60 to $75 range. I don't quite remember what the exact price is. But keep in mind, resin pieces get expensive fast because they are solid, they are one piece, and they're usually kind of heavy, so that costs more to ship them out. But as far as like a resin mini bust goes, I think you can't go wrong with this piece. There's a lot of good things I can say about the statue, and I already have been saying them. Is this the best Deadpool resin mini bust ever? I don't know about that. I would compare it, let's say, to the animated series bust they did not that long ago. And which one would I prefer over the other? I don't really think I have much of a preference because they are so different as well. I think it's just kind of what you're into. And if you're into like a sword-toting Deadpool instead of a gun-toting Deadpool, this is definitely a good piece to have. It's a small enough size that you could also fit it into most shelves fairly easily. It's not a big piece, which means it's not going to also weigh down your shelf and cause any accidental collapses. It's a nice size, nice weight. It's just a good piece, good little piece, I guess. I don't want to call it little, but that's what it is. It is a small piece, so it's going to be kind of easy to find a spot to put it. And it's got still, no loss of quality because of that size. That's something you always get worried about, but no, I mean, the size is right, the scale is right, the painting is right, everything is on here. So I think if you're a Deadpool fan and you're looking for a new piece to add to your collection, or if you're just looking to add your first piece, I mean, yeah, this is still a good one to have. Deadpools come in all shapes and all sizes, and we've looked at a whole ton of them here in this channel, so if you are new to Nerd News Today, go ahead and check out our archives and dig deep. You'll find a whole bunch of Deadpool statues and figures and mini-mates probably too. I don't even know what he has. He's got a lot of stuff out there, man. We've looked at a lot of it, so if you like Deadpool stuff, go ahead and check out our archives. In the meantime, though, if you want to get this Deadpool statue for yourself, we're going to have Amazon affiliate links in the description below, so make sure you click on that and pick them up through there. I recommend Amazon too, because if you have any quality control issues, you can always ship it right back, and you'll have very few hassles about doing that. So that's our look at the Deadpool resin mini bust from Diamond Select. Really nice piece, you guys. I definitely recommend it. I'm going to really be enjoying this one for quite some time on my shelf. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today, and we'll see you guys later.